Hello, Clean Living Mom community. Welcome to another episode of Wine Wednesdays, where we wine and then refine our thinking. Today's glass is a Syrah, a fiddleneck Syrah from Scout and Cellar, one of my very favorite wine companies right now. Very good quality wine, guys. I had some wine connoisseur friends of mine try their wine and they were impressed, okay? So today's glass comes from Back That Glass Up. She's a rep for Scout and Cellar. Her name is Meredith, like me. It's so good. Okay, so I'll have her handle below and or her website. Go check it out. Highly recommend. I really like this wine. May or not have already drank some here. Okay, full-bodied. It's actually 14.5% alcohol. Fun. Fairly strong legs, I would say. Yes, very dry, which I like. Syrahs, typically in the past that I have tried, are very sweet, so I like that this is no sugar. Makes a big difference. Okay, we are whining today, guys, about 3 things that the clean beauty movement can improve on, okay? This is technically a part 3 to the 3 things that, ways that science is failing us. So go back and look at those videos. Got 2 different ones on those. Before this, okay, so here we go. First we're gonna whine about the part and then we're gonna talk about the refining, okay? So these are just my opinion from what I've personally observed. Clean beauty movement referring to really the whole holistic, but more so more erring on the side of having to do with like products, makeup, things of that nature. Just the green beauty movement, clean beauty, non-toxic product beauty movement, whatever you want to call it, movement as a whole. Okay, number 1. I think that we need to be better about the terminology that we use and the information that we're sharing in general. Let's start with the basics, right? Okay, so that includes the terminology that we're using and the facts that we are talking about, meaning things that err on the side of greenwashing, or something that's erring on the side more of sounding like fear-mongering, or memes and graphics that we're sharing, sharing incorrect information in general, okay? So first of all, the whining side, it's so hard, okay? Like, we're not like trained in this, like, we're just a bunch of untrained professionals. We're not scientists, we're not chemists, we're not doctors, we're just moms or students or whatever, people just trying to live a healthy lifestyle, live our best life. I hate that phrase. Okay, but we're trying to be healthy. We're trying to not be sick and not feel terrible and not use products that make us break out or have skin issues or whatever. We're trying to fix all these different things, right? We're not trained in this. How are you supposed to know what we're supposed to say and not say in the terms that we use? It's difficult because some of them are regulated, some of them are not. So I understand the plight of, and no one has time, like not everybody has time to do all this research of, well, what stuff is correct, what stuff's not. So I'm not as much pointing fingers here and, being like, we all need to do better at this because you're purposely doing this. I mean, we don't really have the time, not all the time, to just sit down, really focus on figuring out what to say, how to say it, what's incorrect, what's not. There's so much misinformation to sort through. It's difficult. So I understand this, okay? But just as a plea in general and just to like a charge here to try to do better in this, okay? Number 1, the terminology that we're using, and I talk about this a lot, and it's why it's because it's so important, okay? The terminology using, such as, saying different things, preservative-free, chemical-free, the ones that I've talked about before. Things that are just flat out incorrect, don't make sense, that anyone who is trained that would hear that would be just like, they literally have no idea what they're talking about, We need to avoid this. Sharing information, there's a lot of graphics and memes that are created, and some of it is true in it, but a lot of times most information is not, guys, because it's the ones that are the most popular that are probably the most incorrect because they seem the most opposing to what the other side is, and it's called taking the sensational approach, okay? It sounds it's making it sound more dramatic than it is. It's at the expense of accuracy. We are trying to get attention, and a lot of people will say, well, it's still good to get people to just think about what ingredients are in their products, but it's not ever at the expense of accuracy, okay? Because what that is fear-mongering and greenwashing and correctly misinforming. It's not actually correctly informing the consumer about what actually is bad and isn't bad. So when people are sharing different graphics, ones that I have, purposely called out and debunked several times, of like 26 seconds of, is all it takes for the products to get into your, into your bloodstream. That's a fear-mongering post, okay? I think we also may need to define what fear-mongering is, because that may mean something different to different people. But fear-mongering to me is saying something is bad when either there's nothing to back up that it's bad, or there's evidence that proves otherwise, that says that it's not actually bad. And I do understand, I just want to take a second to talk about this because this topic comes up a lot when I'm talking with people. I do understand the idea of erring on the side of caution, and well, even though that ingredient is controversial, some people do okay with it, some don't. Some people say that it's bad, some people don't. I choose to, stay away from it. That's fine. You do that. If you know your body, you've got to do whatever is best for your body, your family. You know you the best, okay, and what you need. So I totally understand staying away from something yourself personally because you just don't even want to risk it. I hear that a lot too from like cancer survivors, people who have severe autoimmune disease issues. They're like, I just don't even want to deal with it. It may be fine, it may not. I want to err on the side of caution. Even if science says it's okay and it's a safe ingredient, I'm not going to do it. Totally fine. But there is a tone difference when you're educating other people on this ingredient in saying, I'm choosing to stay away from this and err on the side of caution. Here's why. Versus, this is a toxic ingredient and you should stay away from it too. Do you see the difference in how you're portraying the information? When you're saying, I'm erring on the side of caution, there is different data you can look at and hear the different sides, versus this is bad and you should be staying away from this as well. A lot of times there's not information to support what you're saying over here, okay? So there's a difference in educating at the expense of accuracy here, okay? So I think it is really important to take the time to fact check memes and graphics that we share, and even posts that other people post. I mean, check what I say every time I say it. Check and see, fact check me and see if what I'm saying is correct. But there's just so often, so many times surrounding this topic, misinformation is shared and it goes viral, or different people share it just because someone else did. And really, there's so many things wrong with it. And I know that it may seem like semantics, like, okay, well, I'm saying chemical free, but I just mean chemicals as the bad ones, okay? No, it seems like semantics. I'm telling you it's not. It's literally the difference between someone listening to you or not. Because when I hear, and I've heard so many other times, when people that know anything about topics surrounding this, when they hear something or they hear someone say, all right, this is chemical free, it's like, I'm not even listening to what you're saying. You're so naive. You don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, so I think it is important to use our terms correctly as best we can. And then if we learn that something is wrong, it's okay. We've been saying it wrong, or we figure out some new information, totally fine. We readjust, we move on, okay? That's called having a growth mindset. I talk about that all the time on here. But I think it's really important, okay? So that's number one. Okay, so just as a recap, fact check things before you share them. Make sure that we're not using terms that sound greenwashing, or could be taken as fear-mongering and not correctly informing the consumer of both sides, okay? That's number one. Okay, number two, we need to stop using scientific studies that have nothing to do with what we're talking about to support our claims, okay? I get frustrated at this one, guys, and it's one I see happen a lot, okay? It's something I've already talked about in my video about is using non-toxic laundry detergent important or not. I debunk an article that was written from a clean company that's talking about this study that was done and trying to use that for how much the body absorbs. And this is where we're getting, guys, you've heard it, I'm positive, of the 60% of what we put on our body gets absorbed. This is the study that this is coming from. And it's in the abstract at the very beginning of the article. It says 60% was the average amount of what the body absorbed. But when you actually, that people are trying to use that study as meaning all ingredients on every product everywhere that you apply it on your body, when in actuality, when you really look at that study, it's talking about volatile organic compounds in drinking water, and someone has put their hand in that water submerged for an hour with those ingredients in it, and is talking about how much their body absorbed of those volatile organic compounds. And even when you go, guys, and read through it, you'll see that 60% was the average, but it said depending on, it was directly related with how long the person's hand was in the water. The dose makes the poison here, right? It directly shows that it was anything from 5% or around 5% to 90% of absorbing it based on how long it was in the water. So 60% was just even the average. It wasn't even an across the board number, okay? There were times where only 5% of something was being absorbed. So this is so important, because it's another thing that people are, anyone who knows anything about scientific studies, or even looks at it themselves. I mean, a layman can look at this and be like, this is talking about drinking water. Why is this person using this having to do with an eye product, or an eyelash, whatever, mascara that they're absorbing? Like, those are two completely different things. You cannot use that as the same argument for, well, this supports this theory then of this. No. Okay, we need to stop doing that. We need to, I know this is another thing that's like, we're not trained in this. We're not trained in, most people aren't at least, reading scientific studies. That's so hard. I get that. It's like, you have to really put in the effort and work to understand that. And it's really hard. But if you are educating other people, and if you're sharing information to try to help educate other people, it's important, because you're now being held responsible for the information you are sharing, and you're being part of the problem in sharing misinformation, right? So we've got to make sure the studies that are being cited are actually talking about, number one, what the issue is that we're talking about, okay? And we need to make sure that we're looking into the legitimacy of those studies too. And I know that gets into really hard, like, again, well, we're not trained in this, but it is important. Who's sourcing it? Was it done in humans? That really does make a big difference. A lot of things, claims that I've seen, it was things that were done in animals that when tried to replicate in humans wasn't able to. Something like that is really important to know. So when you're looking at those, just a couple of food for thought things to look at when looking at scientific studies, but we've got to stop using studies to back up our confirmation bias that does not have anything to do with what it is we were trying to prove. Okay. Number 3, this rolls in real nicely with, we need to have an open mind, and we need to stop, in my opinion, assuming that everything that a clean beauty person says is always right, or even a company, or Gwyneth Paltrow, or big names that are, prominent within a clean beauty movement, green beauty movement, whatever you want to call it. We need to stop assuming that pretty much everything they say is right, like everything in opposition to what we know against big pharma and medicine and scientists, that everything we hear in opposition to them is then automatically correct. And on the flip side, that everything that scientists or formulators or chemists or doctors, I hate saying that, but it's true, that everything they say is then wrong. That's not always the case, okay? There's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And if you have ever looked into this, it is a psychological theory that when you start researching something, you start at the top of, I understand everything. And I looked into this a little bit, and I know what this is, right? So we hear some information from clean beauty person or whatever, and Beauty Counter has trained you on all these different things and, has given you some information, right? So we start at the top of, okay, well, we know pretty much everything, right? And then as we start researching something more, it's an interesting slope of, okay, just kidding, maybe there's actually some more to this than what I realized, to just kidding, I'm never gonna understand this because this is so crazy, actually way more complicated than I thought, to, okay, maybe I'm starting to get a little bit more of a handle on things now, and ending with, trust me, guys, it's complicated. Okay, that is the Dunning-Kruger effect, psychological effect of going through and learning something new, whether that be information, researching something by topic, whatever it is, right? So I feel like in a lot of topics, I'm honestly more on the side of, just kidding, I don't know anything about this. Okay, maybe starting to get a little bit of a handle on that. I fall roughly in between there, to be honest with you, on a lot of topics, okay? And most things I err more on the side of being, I'm realizing it's a lot more complicated than what we think it is. And it's really hard when we're going up against people who are trained professionally in different things, because it's like they're looking at us like you literally don't know anything. But at the same time, the internet's kind of a nice thing nowadays, right? We can we have information more at our fingertips than more than what we ever had before. So okay, that being said, though, I think something we can do better in is just, again, it kind of rolls in with number 2, correctly assessing more so the information that we're getting, not just being trusting of people that are going against everything and assuming that what they're saying is right, but fact checking it ourselves and really looking into it, and not always just being opposed to what they're saying on this side and assuming what they're saying is wrong, right? We need to be able to accept ourselves that we're still learning and that we're always, as a whole, trying to do better. We're trying to, I honestly like Beauty Counter's like verbiage that they use on this of the know better, do better, because that is what we're all striving to do, right? We're all just striving to know better, do better. Take some information that we know, continue to grow on that, change and evolve as it evolves as well, and as we know more. So anyway, those are just a couple of things that I have observed. I would love to hear what you say, though, and some things that you think the clean beauty movement can do better on. If I miss something, let me know. Thank you for whining with me today. Don't forget to grab a glass of Scout and Sella wine, and I will see you guys next time.